Hey, what's up you guys, and welcome back to the channel, Gregory Crazed Art, where I draw pictures and tell stories. I am Gregory Crazed, and this is going to be part 2 of the Magical Kingdom. So just kick it with me for about 8 to 12 minutes, give or take a few, and I'm going to draw you a picture and tell you a story. As time went on, navigating this new nuclear post-apocalyptic world proved to be difficult for this family too, to say the least. Breathable air, food, and clean water was in short supply, as well as decent human beings. Just merely a few years ago was something no one truly thought about. You could open your window and breathe the air as you drove to your supermarket to buy commodities for daily sustenance. Now no longer in abundance across the globe, it's something survivors of this new world strive to find, to obtain, even kill to get a hold of. It was a fight for their very lives day in and day out. For this family, their only sense of normalcy after the world was crippled was visiting the most magical place on Earth, Disneyland. Every 365th day, they would journey to this place to remind themselves of how the world used to be and find some happiness. And every year they arrived, it looked just like it did before the destruction. During their travels, they heard rumors from some survivors they happened to trade goods with about a place of safety, ran by an ancient race of people some folks referred to as the Tech Mages. Magic users, working from the shadows since the aftermath of the Great Flood when God destroyed the world. Their numbers were small, nearly wiped out during the Great Salem witch hunts. A few hundred families existed before the Big Boom. Now only a handful remain. They blended their abilities with modern technology and created magically protected, camouflaged living zones outside of some of the most devastated areas, protecting them from the radiated land. Breathable air, clean water, and food existed within these zones. They invited few of the radiated populace to survive within the city camps that would abide by their rule, if they happened to stumble upon their secret society. It was rumored that before the Big Boom, certain celebrities and those that would be considered elite class were part of this ancient people. For this mother and daughter, they wandered the concrete deserts of each ruined city for years searching for such a place, avoiding most contact with survivors, except for trade, only trusting themselves. 8 years passed, and on the 8th anniversary was when the effects of the radiation finally started to take an unexpected turn. Certain mutations started to present themselves in those that didn't directly die from the poisoning. A new form of mankind emerged. Individuals started to display certain abilities, powers if you will. Powers that previously were only possible inside of movies with special effects, or children's and young adult storybooks. Now no longer a fantasy. No, now the impossible has happened. You see, after the Great Flood, God felt remorseful and decided to take a piece of itself, its power, and insert it into the womb of one of Noah's female grandchildren. A gene that when fully matured over the eons would grant them just a fraction of God's strength. Over time, the radiation mutated their genes, activating the dormant God gene. It fused neurological synaptic pathways in their brains, giving way to unbelievable attributes. Telekinetic and psionic mind abilities, energy wielding, elemental manipulation, and far more incredible and dangerous powers. Now at that time, when the world's population started to progress and folks began to gain their incredible gifts, they used them to manage their life on the irradiated planet. Nothing particularly special presented itself within this mother and daughter until another 365 days when they were traveling back to their place of normalcy, crossing the outskirts of Los Angeles city ruins, avoiding the more toxic city center, when they were ambushed by a group of bandits that tried to rob them. The bandits pursued them throughout the land, chasing them up the now broken 405 freeway overpass. They approached this mother and daughter, cornering them at the edge, with no place to run. Suddenly, the edge of the freeway broke beneath their feet, sending this family tumbling down and hitting the road below. Their bodies broken and bloodied, bones snapped and muscles twisted beneath the rubble. The bandits then followed suit. Removing most of the concrete from off their crushed and twisted flesh, they began raiding their dying bodies. The mother looked up to see the faces of the ones responsible for her and her daughter's undoing, unable to speak. As the light started to fade and dim from her tear-filled eyes, she vowed revenge till there was nothing left to see but darkness. Days passed, maybe weeks, maybe even months, and a pinhole of light pierced the dark veil, and a jolt of life crept back into her wrecked body. Her heart started pumping again, and as the blood coursed throughout her cold corpse, giving it warmth, the pinhole widened and blinding light shined through. She shot up from her concrete grave in a panic, gasping for air, clawing at her throat. Coughing, checking her body with her hands, surprised to find death rejected her. Even more surprised to find her body renewed. She stood up and immediately began to search for her daughter's body from the rubble, calling her name, only to look ahead to find her already standing awake, 30 feet away from her. It seems death had no more room in the afterlife and rejected them both. But how could this be? How did they survive? The truth was, they didn't. They had died. But it was in death that their unique ability activated. Distraught and unsure of what to do, they did the only thing that made sense. They proceeded to that one place of normalcy. All the while during their journey, the mother thinking of those faces that caused their pain and remembering the vow she made. Once they arrived a few days later, they realized nothing had changed and it was as it had always been. Unbeknownst to them, the reason Disneyland hadn't changed was due to its original creator. Walt Disney was a part of that ancient class of magic users, a tech mage. He had cast a spell on all the park grounds during their construction to be everlasting and safe from harm, a true magical kingdom. That was the place they began to call home for years, only traveling outside to trade and gain information about the changing world, also to gather any information leading to the location of those bandits. It wasn't until 10 years later, when nothing about them changed, that they realized everything about them changed. They were no longer bound to the constraints of time and normal human traits, not having aged a single day since the fall. They also realized rapid healing was another gift they possessed. Now the mother and daughter had the tools to find those bandits that sent them over the edge and give them a proper thank you. Yet they were 4 months too late, for the entire bandit crew that attacked them had died during a siege on one of the tech mage's city camps, only coming to realize this when they came upon their rotting severed heads stuck on pikes outside the borders of the mage's camouflaged land. It was a warning to all travelers that wished to storm the cities, not looking for trade, and only death and destruction. With revenge snatched from their hands, they still felt a bit of relief, in that the individuals died in such a way. As they returned back to their magical kingdom, a question floated to the surface of their minds. Just how long would the world remain in this irradiated state? Just how long will they live in this place? A question they would still ask 500 years later. Well, hey, that's the end of the video, you guys. I really hope you enjoyed it, and part 2 of the story. And if you did happen to enjoy it, feel free to like it with that thumbs up, and or subscribe if you so choose, and come back to kick it with me again for the next one. Until then, thanks for chilling out, and I will see you all next time.